Toastmasters and viewing audience. Our meeting will come to order. Toastmasters Club, Advanced Club 9523. I would like to welcome everyone here today. We do have some club business to take care of today. I would like to turn control of the meeting to our Toastmaster of the day, Joe Schwerling. We call him Mr. Toastmaster because if you need to go somewhere to a Toastmaster meeting and you're not quite sure, are you in the right place? All you have to do is look for Joe's van. It has Toastmasters plastered on the windows, on decals on his van, so you know, oh, I'm in the right place. Let's welcome Joe Schwerling, Advanced Toastmaster Bronze.
Thank you, Madam President. Typically, I would also have a Toastmasters patch and some Toastmasters pins, such as our president has a surplus of, due to all her hard work and organized accomplishments. According to our agenda, well, first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone.
Sorry.
This is our first day. This is the first day of spring. Even though by the time this is viewed on television, we'll actually be enjoying the much more enjoyable sunny weather. But this is the first day of spring, and we're past any significant snow and so on. So I'll be introducing a word of the day to try to utilize in our presentations, and we just try to introduce a word just into the general vocabulary for everyone. And the word I've selected for the day is the word scintillate, such as to sparkle, to be enthusiastic. In a sentence, a scintillating speaker will be enlivening his audience with all that enthusiasm. So scintillate and scintillating, to sparkle up our first day of spring. And our next part of our meeting is our Tabletopics session. And I want to introduce the Tabletopics Master, and he can explain what that is and the purpose. Please welcome Ray Boston, our Tabletopics Master today.
Thank you, Joe. In Tabletopics, that gives all speakers, veteran Toastmasters, as well as any guest, a chance to get up and do an impromptu speech. Table topic typically goes from 60 seconds to a maximum of 2 minutes. So as the Table Topic Master, I will be introducing the topic. And the way I want to run Table Topics today is to have what I call the runaround Table Topics. Normally, there is a theme, and everybody gets up and answers to that one theme. But today, we're going to sort of do a round robin. I'm going to make a short presentation, then I'm going to call on somebody to answer my first question. They're going to answer that question, but at the end of their question, as they wrap up, they are going to turn it into a round robin, in that they will immediately introduce the next topic, and they can keep within the theme if they want to, or they can go off in another direction. So the speaker, when you finish your presentation of the topic that I give, you'll get up, answer that topic, and then present the next topic. And then you'll answer the next question. So speaking of spring, I always love spring after the winter and everybody's maybe stayed in the house, ate a little too much of that warm, hearty food that we like in the winter, the soups and stews. But when spring comes around, I definitely feel that there's some events that are gonna spark me. And one of these things is spring is the March Madness, which is the basketball NCAA tournament. I've been looking at it. We have a great tradition in this area where our team from Cincinnati won. Xavier won last night, as well as Cincinnati. So what I want to know is, how do you respond to March Madness? Is it truly a scintillating sporting event as I relate to it? So Rick, I would like to tell me, do you participate in March Madness, and is it sports or is it some other form of March Madness?
Well, thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master. March Madness is interesting. I enjoy March Madness as long as the local teams are involved. I'm not, I guess I'm pretty regional specific, so as long as UC is in there, as long as Xavier's in there, as long as Kentucky's in there, then it's a lot of fun. I think having somebody to root for is a great time and keeps things very interesting. Once they're all eliminated, then it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference to me. I enjoy watching good basketball, but I don't go out of my way necessarily to watch Duke or South Carolina or some of these other places. But I really, as long as the local teams are involved, as long as they're winning and having fun, it's always fun to watch the coaches sort of, their take on the game is always a lot different than the athletes. You know, they're always, the athletes, oh yeah, we won, no big deal. The coaches are going, man, we just barely eked that one out. So I enjoy that kind of thing. As far as the next thing, I guess that's a question. On a basketball team, we have the leadership and we have the athletes, and the leadership is the coaching. And I'm just wondering how Toastmasters is like a basketball team. Oh. Carol?
I like the team concept. My badge. Oh, that's flipped over. Okay. I like the team concept. When my grandson was playing basketball, the coach said, well, to preface that, there was a guy on the team and he was so enthusiastic. He grabbed the ball and got it in there and in the other guy's basket. And they won by 2 points. And the team was saying, you caused us to lose the ball game. And the coach said, we win as a team, we lose as a team. And had any of those guys made some of their foul shots, we would not have lost. So I like the concept because in Toastmasters, actually, you can't do anything without a team. No matter how high you rise in this organization, there were people that you rose on their wings. And so I think the team concept is very important. And one of the things, you may be a star, but you're not going to last long. You're going to die out if you aren't calling on other people to help. So with that, I would like to direct my next question. Can I call you Ray? My next question is, if the concept of team in Toastmasters is similar to the concept of the team in basketball, what do you do when a player is not a team player? When an officer in Toastmasters is not doing their job? So would you address that, Ray Boston?
Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to have this round robin topic. So I didn't know I was going to get called on again. But Joe, you better be ready because you're going to be up here too in a second. The team concept. The team concept in basketball, football, ping pong as far as it goes, because you even have a team concept of ping pong in the Olympics. It's always important. And when we've had some sports teams, in fact, for the University of Cincinnati, one of its star players, Robert Whaley, recently quit the team. Now, even though you call each teammate equal, they have different responsibilities on any particular game. One might arise as the leader, and of course you have your overall coach as the leader. Well, Robert Whaley had a little disagreement. I think he was just disappointed. He had been doing well, and he decided to quit the team. And that's equivalent to what Carol was saying. Here in Toastmasters, we're often given responsibilities, but sometimes I guess we could say that life gets in the way. And whether it's with your children or your job responsibilities, you find out that you're dropping your Toastmaster abilities. Well, as the coach, such as Carol coaches a lot of Toastmaster teams in the area, you just have to see if you can help that person to maybe reschedule, do some time management. There are many ways, and the most important thing is to continue to be supportive. And that's exactly what happened with UC. Even though this young man, Robert Whaley, quit the team for personal reasons, the coach and the team got behind him. They invited him in to see if there was something that they could do. And rather than let this man go down the drain, or rather than let one of our esteemed Toastmaster members go down the drain with being overworked. We brought them, but Robert was brought back into the fold, and that's what we have to do with our Table Topics team members, do everything we can to support them. And Joe, what I would like to ask you at this point, could you give us a couple of ideas of how we can be supportive of all of our team members in Toastmasters?
Thank you, Ray. First of all, every Toastmasters club, its members, the meetings that are held, it's all there for mutual support. We're all there to help each other, to motivate each other, to give feedback, to enhance our own performances, whether it's in speaking or in the leadership roles. And part of that support also goes to helping each other with the roles. A Toastmasters club has a president who oversees the entire club, a vice president of education who arranges and coordinates the scheduling of the different roles, such as speaker and evaluator and table topics, timer, counter, word master, sometimes a joke master. And there's a vice president of membership and a vice president of public relations that would work together both to bring in members, tracking what the members want to serve their needs, to keep them accomplishing, working toward their goals. And again, with the public relations officer, getting the information out to the public so they learn about the benefits of Toastmasters. If any of those three roles, the Vice President of Education, Vice President of Membership, or Vice President of Public Relations, have a problem accomplishing their roles, the club would otherwise suffer. So all the other members try to help with those particular roles. Additional roles in the club are secretary, treasurer, and sergeant at arms, which are more administrative functions. But they're also just as important to the long-term health and welfare of the club. So just as with teams where such as in basketball or baseball, where the ball is exchanged back and forth to accomplish the mission, the members of each Toastmasters team are exchanging the roles and assisting each other all the time. Now, is that, and you want to proceed? Okay, thank you very much, Ray, for your table topic session. Our next session of the meeting will be a presentation by Steve Ahrenholz. It's a presentation from the Better Speaker series, and in lieu of a specific evaluator that we do on most speeches, on this educational presentation, we have a separate form that we'll be completing to give specific feedback to Steve on giving this presentation. On the form, among the things to consider are whether the presentation reflects adequate preparation, full knowledgeability on the topic, maintaining eye contact with the camera and the viewing audience, use of visual aids, suggestions for doing anything different regarding visual aids, and the use of body language and vocal quality, and then overall comments about the speech. Many years ago, Albert Einstein was asked to speak at Harvard University. After being given a glowing introduction, the celebrated physicist walked to the lectern, gazed at the expectant audience before him, paused for what seemed an eternity, then said, "I really have nothing to say," and sat down. Stunned by what they had just heard, the audience remained silent. Then Einstein got up again, approached the lectern once more, and added, "When I have something to say, I'll come back." Even the geniuses among us may sometimes have a difficult time coming up with speech topics. But once you've made a commitment to speak, Einstein's theory of topic selection is probably the best avoided. Instead, today's session will provide us with several tried and true formulas for choosing successful speech topics. Whether your next scheduled speaking assignment is at Harvard University or before our local civic group or Toastmasters Club. This presentation is part of Toastmasters International's Better Speaker Series, which is a set of programs offering additional information on basic speaking skills. Today's presentation will be given by Stephen Ahrenholz. Steve is a charter member of this TV Toastmasters Club and an ATM Silver and Competent Leader, which are achievement levels in Toastmasters. Please join me in welcoming Steve, who will give us some ideas on how to go about selecting your topic. Selecting your topic.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and my fellow Toastmasters here, and all of our guests that are watching in today. How many times have you tried to come up with a speech topic only to feel as unfocused as this character from Lewis Carroll's classic novel? "The time has come," the walrus said, "to talk of many things, of ships and sealing wax, and of cabbages and kings, and how the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings." Of course, we are in Cincinnati, and some of our pigs do have wings. "It's been weeks, perhaps months, since you last gave a speech, and now the time has come to talk of, well, something. The question is, what?" It has happened to all of us at least once. We know we need to give a speech, but just can't decide what to talk about. So, as the date of the speech draws near, we spend a great deal of time and effort flailing around until we, like the walrus from Alice's Adventures Through the Looking Glass, we are capable of little more than gibberish. As a Toastmaster, you are encouraged to give manual speeches that follow specific guidelines. But there will be times outside of your Toastmasters experience when speaking assignments will not be so well defined. Even within the organization of Toastmasters, you may occasionally find yourself facing the prospect of topic burnout. When this happens, it's time to consult two general sources of information. We'll talk a little bit about the first source. Think back to your dreaded icebreaker speech. Of course, you were challenged by this first manual speech, but what if you had been required to speak on a topic that was totally unfamiliar to you? Talking about yourself, your family, your background, what you do for a living, personal achievements, what you hope to accomplish in Toastmasters, offered a familiar and reassuring approach to the assignment. You talked about something that you knew very well. Well, that's great, you may be thinking, but what does that have to do with my search for a speech topic? In a word, everything. When a speaker is personally involved with a speech topic, odds are the audience will also become involved. To be sure, world events, philosophical issues, and the like are worthy subjects. But if you are unable to relate to this information in a way that is interesting both to you and your audience, it's best to leave such discussions to others. And don't just speak to fill time. The more personal involvement, interest, and enthusiasm that you bring to the speech, the more likely your audience will respond in a similar manner. Let's re-examine that first manual speech. Since your icebreaker lasted only 4 to 6 minutes, odds are great that there was a lot in your life that you were unable to cover. Perhaps you got to spend less than 30 seconds talking about your favorite sport. But there's so much you could say about baseball. Why not develop a speech on your own perspective and experiences with this sport, either as a participant or as a spectator? Maybe you have some strong opinions about the management of this sport. Write down those ideas. Jot them down. Since baseball is important to you, you'll find yourself jotting down all sorts of information that will add up to an interesting and highly personalized presentation on America's favorite sport. But what if you find your experience with baseball, like I know mine is basically a second-hand knowledge of who won the World Series? Simply apply this approach to an experience or time that you found meaningful, a childhood memory, your first job, why you do or don't like to travel. All of these can be springboards to very interesting speeches. Are you still drawing a blank? Still in a quandary as to what to use for sources as far as a speech topic? Well, let's look at another source that is great for providing you with a wealth of topics. Books, magazines, newspapers, and now the internet offer a wealth of opportunities to find topics that are very good at coming up with topics that will stimulate your thinking. You have a wide range of resources at your fingertips with these resources. Everything from entertainment to sports and editorial comments to business and economic affairs. Not to mention the latest developments in science and medicine. And don't forget to scan the pages of a newspaper for editorials, letters to the editor, and personal commentaries that can provide both provocative and often humorous approaches to subjects that are of general interest. By using these materials as an inspiration for your own ideas, observations, and opinions, you'll have the makings of a first-class, riveting speech. So again, the reference materials that many of us have ready access to include books, magazines, newspapers, the internet, and don't forget your local library. Your local library is a wealth of information. And if there's something in particular that you're looking for, by all means, talk to the librarian. They often know of sources that you wouldn't have even thought of. You already know from experience that inspiration can be as sudden and as elusive as quicksilver. Sometimes all it takes is a television program that you watched, a conversation with a friend, or a quiet walk in the morning. And suddenly, an idea flashes into your mind. Even the most mundane of activities can set the stage for an inspired thought or concept. For example, the famous mystery writer Agatha Christie once confessed that she got her best ideas while doing the dishes. Talk about mundane activities. But beware. Once you have a concept, make sure it's not lost before you have the opportunity to jot it down. Creative speech concepts are often fleeting, so keep a notepad and a pen handy to jot down your concepts. Even if you don't end up using a particular idea, keep your notes, keep your ideas in a little file that you can refer to at a future point in time when you are again looking for a speech topic. As author John Steinbeck once said, ideas are like rabbits. You get a couple and learn how to handle them, and pretty soon you have a dozen. And if they're like hamsters, you probably have 100. All right. Now that your brain is fermenting with all sorts of topics, your main challenge is to narrow down the selection. You probably didn't think you'd get to that point at the beginning. This can be accomplished by following several criteria which you would apply to each topic. First of all, consider your audience. How many people will attend? Will they be already familiar with the subject, or do you need to carefully define some basic terms and concepts? What is their age range? Does your audience have a similar education, interest, background, and experience that would be needed for someone to really enjoy this presentation? To maximize success, match the content and direction of your speech to the needs of those who will be attending. Next, let's take a look at the occasion. Is your speech expected to be given for a specific purpose? When are you scheduled to speak during the program? What will happen before or after your presentation? Will you be speaking from a raised podium? And will a lectern be available? What type of microphones, if any, are going to be provided? Thirdly, let's take a look at your abilities. Now that your decision is close to being finalized, review your knowledge and interest on this topic. Do you have enough enthusiasm and interest to capture your audience's attention? And will they accept you as an authority? If you had planned to speak on, say, the benefits of exercise, but have yet to lose that extra 10 pounds from Christmas, maybe you need to choose another subject. Also, consider whether or not you have enough presentation time. If your speech clocks in at well over the allotted time slot given to your presentation, you probably have a bit too much material. What you're going to have to do is pare down the topic to a more manageable presentation. Well, maybe you've heard the story about the little boy who was intently watching an old mountaineer carving a beautiful horse from a block of wood. The little boy asked, "How come you carve such beautiful horses from wood?" The old man paused for a moment to reflect and then said, "It's easy. I just cut away what ain't horse." There's no need to feel overwhelmed when faced with selecting a topic, but it does take some careful whittling. Once you've chosen a subject of personal interest that fits your audience, it's suited for the occasion and your own speaking abilities, you will find yourself coming closer to that ideal of a finely crafted speech. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you very much. And now for our next speaker, Stanley Glitchner.
Speaking in public doesn't have to be a death sentence. At Toastmasters, we can help you overcome your fears.
Presentation was the use of the internet. As Toastmaster today, I brought that up as well. Pass on a little tip of the day. There's a website called refdesk.com, refdesk.com, that I had come across a couple of months ago, and that has a lot of useful information. Within that, I came across another one that I heard about at another Toastmasters meeting earlier this week and didn't know where it came from. It's called monsterfacts.com, or factmonster.com. And they both have a lot of interesting combination of trivia, background information on the current date or words or just suggestions. There was even one section that's called Analogy of the Day. So you can pick up a variety of analogies to both for learning their meaning and to be able to use them in common. So at this point, our next speaker, who probably didn't need to do too much research on his topic since he's doing an icebreaker, but it's Rick Davis. And I'd like to call on first Ray Boston, who is Rick's evaluator, to give the objectives for Rick's speech.
Carol mentioned the manual. Now, this is the old manual, which we've all been working with, and we encourage everybody to join in Toastmasters. You can really learn a lot and come from being hardly able to get up here and say your name to becoming an eloquent speaker like Carol Cormerlink or Joe Schwerling or Rick, as you'll see. You start off, there are 10 speech projects in here, and the first one is the icebreaker, and we mean that literally. It is for the new speaker to get up here and break the ice, to simply get up and talk about perhaps their favorite subject, certainly a subject that they know a lot about, namely themselves. And the Toastmasters organization has found out that that's a very good way to break the ice for each new presenter. So the idea is you will get up and talk for 4 or 5 minutes, tell a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself to your fellow Toastmaster members. You're not expected to necessarily use the gestures that you'll learn to do as you go through all the projects. Even to use a lot of vocal variety is simply to get up here and present yourself, and then that's the foundation for the rest of your projects. So now we're going to hear from Rick Davis in his icebreaker. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Ray. Rick Davis, distinguished Toastmaster, has been a longtime Toastmaster in this greater Cincinnati area. He's been division governor a couple of times, and our newspaper editor with international awards for our district newsletter. So congratulations on that, Rick. Also looks very distinguished when you see him in his health department uniform. He works for a government agency under NIOSH. Rick is giving his icebreaker presentation tonight. So please welcome Rick Davis, our founding president as well of this Toastmasters Club. And the speech is Opportunities. Opportunities, Rick Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and audience. The young girl came to my office. I was teaching undergraduates at the time, and she said, "Dr. Davis, I would like to go to medical school, but you realize that by the time I get out of medical school, I'll be 26 years old." And I said, "How old will you be if you don't go to medical school?" It's opportunities, challenges that are dressed up as opportunities that we have to face every day, decisions that we have to make. And sometimes it's not an easy choice, not an easy decision to make, whether to go to medical school or to pursue other pursuits. I'd like to talk about some opportunities that I've had in my life that at the time were challenges and were not fun challenges, were not fun choices that we had to make, but turned out in the end, in retrospect, to be very good opportunities. Probably the most interesting opportunity was to come here to Cincinnati, because the job that I was telling you about, the opportunity teaching undergraduates, had come to an end, and I was unemployed. Always a fun thing to happen in your life, an opportunity that needs to be changed. And I was brought in to NIOSH, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, to set up a laboratory. And that's what I've done, is worked in laboratories most of my life. About a year ago, I was given the opportunity to start a little project, a small, tiny little project. And this was a challenge. I thought I was going to be working in the lab. I was going to be doing the same kinds of things I've been doing in the past, maybe a little bit different, but mainly research-oriented, and I was going to make some measurements, and I was going to buy some equipment, and it was going to be just a real small little project. Well, an opportunity arose. A major automobile manufacturer was trying to make a decision about how they were going to spend about $500,000 on their workers. And rather than rush into it, rather than decide to go ahead and spend this money and to sort of worry about let the chips fall where they may, they decided that they needed to run a little study. So they came to their contractor who normally handles these kinds of studies, and their contractor said, we don't know anything about what you're doing. Let's go to NIOSH. Let's go to the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. And my boss got wind of this study. He, in turn, turned this over to me. Since I had this little project, and this seemed to fit into this big project, he thought that I should run this study. Now, I've never done a field study before. This is a field study. This is going out and talking to workers. This is going out and trying to determine how best to collect data. All of a sudden, I went from this little tiny laboratory study to a big, giant field study. And I know that there are other people in the audience who've dealt with hundreds of thousands of people before. This is only hundreds of people. But it was quite an experience for me, and it was a challenge, and it was a challenge in that it was a whole different psychological way of dealing with research. Now, instead of working in my lab, buying a little bit of equipment, handling little glitches as they come up. Now we're in a big situation. We have people that we're pulling off of their job. They're making lots of money. We don't want to keep them off the job for very long. We want to get them in, get them tested, and get them back out and back to their work. And this auto manufacturer was very supportive, or is very supportive. We are making four visits to their plant over the next year, and the interesting thing is that instead of a nice laboratory study that I had envisioned, I now have about 250 workers that we're following over the course of a year, and it's been very interesting and very challenging. So, although this project is going to take a year, the challenges are great. It's a new opportunity for me, and I look forward to the great opportunity. We're also going to be able to answer some very interesting questions that have been around for 50 years, and nobody's been able to answer them because they haven't had the opportunities. So this is going to be a great opportunity for the public, for worker safety, for NIOSH, and also for this auto manufacturer, and I'm looking forward to that challenge. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you, Rick.
Little joke. This guy, he's a farmer. He says, "Hey, hello, sorry." But seriously, folks.
Speaking in public is no joke.
Doctor says, chicken says.
For help, call Toastmasters, the public speaking support group.
The chicken.
Mr. Toastmaster, as general evaluator, it is my duty to introduce the evaluators, and after they give their evaluation, to give the evaluation of the evaluator, and then evaluate the meeting for today. So to start off with, I would like to ask the group, Steve did not have one evaluator, the entire group did. I would like to call on whoever has some feedback that they would like to offer Steve, and I would hope that each one of us have one of these forms that we will get, one of the evaluation forms that we will give back to Steve. Ray, would you have a few words that you would like to say about Steve's presentation? Ray Boston.
Thank you, Carol. Steve, that was a fantastic educational session. One of the things in Toastmasters, we can always expect to come to a meeting and learn something. I really liked your excellent organization. You gave us an introduction. Well, you were given an introduction by Joe in which we heard of a very interesting anecdote re one of the most famous presenters that we've ever heard of, namely Albert Einstein. And that immediately got us hooked into the meeting, because we can all imagine that we've gotten up here one of these days and had a little bit of stage fright and didn't have anything to say. And when you found out that even the greatest speakers and one of the most knowledgeable person in the world, and when we found out that we have been in that same situation, I guess we can say that, boy, that's a scintillating feeling, because we can get up there and go right forward. So that was fantastic. I liked your use of the Alice in Wonderland, one of my famous childhood stories, and the use of the walrus poem to really, that's something that everybody could relate to that. So so those were some of the very good things that we found. You had great eye contact with both the people here, and I believe the TV audience probably got right into you. You let them know that you were talking to each one of them at home. And finally, your organization of your topic, it was obviously well researched. Your graphics were a little bit constrained by the confines of our audience. I had to sort of turn my head, but hopefully the TV audience got to see them, and I know they got some good information just like we did. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray, for that. And I enjoyed the meeting. It's a meeting that I would want to come back and see another meeting. And we do invite guests. You may come and attend any of our meetings that you would like. I would also like to point out we have a brochure called Finding Your Voice, the new brochure that International has, Shaping Your Words and Your Future. I would also like to point out that we have more than 200,000 members in 10,000 clubs in 80 countries. So join us and learn to find your voice. Do we have any other scintillating comments about the meeting today? Any questions before we adjourn the meeting? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.